Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film Barbarian, and I'd heard a lot about this one, heard a lot of people saying it's awesome, it's potentially the best horror movie of 2022, so I was excited to get to it. It was on HBO Max when I ended up watching it, so that was awesome that it was just available at that point. Well, not a disclaimer, but please excuse the fact that my face is kind of red right now. I literally was just cooking in the kitchen, and it got kind of hot in there, so I then went directly to this, and yeah, so my face is a little red, so just understand that. Let's talk about Barbarian, though. Written and directed by Zach Cregger, who also did Miss March, The Civil War on Drugs, and was involved with The Whitest Kids You Know, which if anyone's seen any of what they put out, very funny stuff. The Abraham Lincoln Hammer one, in particular, very funny stuff. Also The Office with the hand gesture. That one always gets me hilarious. This has a great cast. Great cast. Bill Skarsgård, Kurt Braunholer, even though he has a very small part. Justin Long, Richard Brake, Kate Bosworth. I mean, come on. And that speaks to, it's great acted. Like, the acting is outstanding with this film. No problems with the acting whatsoever. Unbelievable. So when you see a cast like that, you know that there has to be something good going on with the film. And that's definitely going on with this film. Justin Long's role was supposedly originally offered to Zac Efron, which is really interesting because when I hear those things, I always think, what would this film have been like with that person in the role? I think Efron would have done a good job. I mean, he did do that movie as Ted Bundy. Sorry, I had to think a minute. And I didn't see it, but I heard that he did a good job. So he's done horror-ish type stuff before anyway. I think he would have done a good job, but it was awesome to see Justin Long in this. I like Justin Long a lot. I am one of very few people that actually like the film Tusk by Kevin Smith, and I really enjoyed Justin Long's performance in Tusk, and so it was great to see him returning to the horror genre and giving a great performance. Supposedly, Jordan Peele had some sort of influence on the story of this. He and Cregger apparently are at least acquaintances or friends, and apparently he had spoken with Peele about the story, and there had been a little bit of back and forth that kind of maybe helped shape a little bit some of the story. So a little bit of slight Jordan Peele fingerprints on this one, maybe. So quick synopsis. Don't want to tell you too much because this is a film that people say go into it not knowing anything. I don't think you need to go into it not knowing anything, especially the stuff that happens like very immediately in the film. So synopsis-wise, it's about a woman who goes to an Airbnb and finds out that she has booked it, but there's someone already there. So there's this confusion of like what's going on with that, and then the two of them end up spending time. They basically become like roommates in this Airbnb for the time being, and then it ends up turning into horror in a certain way. Not going to say how or what events transpire because this is a no spoiler review. You do end up finding out who owns the house, and they end up playing a role in the film, and it also, another person tied to the house who ends up playing a role in the film, and I'm being as vague as possible. But it's horror. You shouldn't know a lot about it because it is a good ride. It starts being related to someone checking into an Airbnb, and that's always going to freak me out on some level. Whenever you introduce something like that, it's going to freak me out on some level because I have used Airbnb before, and it is something that has gone through my mind while I've been at Airbnbs, like, could something go wrong because this is literally someone else's house and other people stayed here and I don't really know the person who owns this house. Could they show up? You know what I mean? So, like, other films have kind of played with that, like The Rental, although I didn't really like The Rental, and there have been some other ones that do. I mean, it's good fertile ground for horror, that's for sure. I greatly dislike the lighting in this film. People's faces typically, at least in the beginning, well, actually for almost the whole thing, their faces are only half lit most of the time. And at night, the lighting, at least in the house, is very yellow, so it makes everything look yellow. I was wondering if they were mainly just shooting everything with natural light and fluorescent bulbs, because that's kind of what it looks like, and I don't like it. It looks terrible. There are times where it's way too dark. You can't really see what you're trying to see, and that's a big pet peeve of mine. It may not have, irked other people as much as it irked me, but that is a big negative with this film is the lighting was awful, in my opinion, and they needed much better lighting. I get when you need to have it like kind of low lighting, and at times it's fine to have it where it's just like people's like half their faces are lit up, but for it to be constant, not cool with that. There is overly strong hinting at what's going on early on in the film, but I ended up being totally fine with it. Not going to tell you why. If you are watching this and you've already seen the film, you will know why it ended up not bothering me. You can tell the pacing is going to be a bit slower on this film, although it really does pick up towards the end. But I will say that even when it's slower pacing, it's still fine. Like, they do a good job of creating, like, a tense atmosphere and maintaining that tense atmosphere. So it's fine. Totally good with the pacing in it. I think it's like an hour and 40 some minutes. And it's fine. I'm fine with the runtime. I'm fine with the pacing on it. There's a moment that the main character discovers something, and that's when you get super intrigued. There is a relatively early on moment that throws a very interesting twist to the film. One that is unbelievably intriguing and has you leaning forward in your seat thinking, where are we going here? Where are we taking this? And it creates this kind of adventurous feel to the film. And once again, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. There is an adventurous aspect to the film, which is always super interesting and engaging. The directing is good. There are some really cool shots, some good angles that are done in this. So directing, not a problem. Cinematography, not a problem. Lighting is the main problem in this. The score even is pretty good. There are a few moments where it feels like the score is a little bit overbearing, but not too bad. So score, also pretty good. Also, the music that they used for building tension was quite good. Very effective, very well composed. Really enjoyed that aspect of it. There is a relationship in this film that moves unbelievably fast and is used to make a character do things that a real person wouldn't. Now, I do feel like that kind of plays into something at play within this film from a metaphorical, subtextual standpoint, but it also is something that they didn't need in the film, necessarily. So it just takes this believability of what's going on within the world they've created, and it kind of throws some of that out, and you will find yourself kind of looking and being like, really? Would this person do this? And really, would this relationship at this point be this strong? Like, I don't know. Like, it bothers me. It seemed like more of like a convenience for writing, or convenience out of writing type thing to move the story. A real nice twist pops up that just throws a huge wrench in your expectations for this film. That may happen a few times in the film, and that's a good thing. That's one of the reasons that people are saying, like, go in as blind as possible on this film, because, yeah, there are some crazy things that go down that you're not going to guess where things go with this. Like, you're just not going to. And that's good. The first scene with Justin Long in it is great. It really does feel like it's a celebration scene of him returning to horror. It's light, it's funky, it's fun. Love that scene. I'm not going to say it's like my favorite scene, but it's a scene that I really love in it because of Justin Long. Some of the material that's commenting on real life issues gets kind of uncomfortable, and I think there's a point to that. It's intentional, and that's a good thing. When you can make people feel a way that they don't want to feel within a film, especially in a horror film, you're doing something right as far as the filmmaking and the writing goes. There's a very memorable, quirky thing that a character does having to do with square footage. People who have not seen the film won't understand that, but people who have will understand that. It kind of seems too over the top, too out there. I understand the humorous value of it, but it feels A, out of place, and B, unrealistic. And it kind of just, for me, like, took me out of the film for a bit. And I was like, I don't really like this. Just it's not like a major part of the film, though, so. It definitely gets odd, so be prepared. Very good acting, like I said. It is hard to figure characters out in this film. They're not clearly written, but I really do think that was one of the points, or it's used to help make a point within this film. So at first I was kind of like, I don't really fully know how I'm supposed to feel about these characters. They feel very muddy. And then by the end of the film, I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel like that was intentional. So, well played. There's a pretty good fire scene at the end. You'll know what I mean. And it feels like it ends kind of abruptly, unfortunately. I didn't love the ending. I got the point of it. I got what it was going for. I think it mirrors, to a degree, some very important horror films we've seen in the past. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to spoil that. But if you really think hard, there are some classic horror films that you can compare the the final scene of the film to. Didn't love that, though. The film feels like it restarts a few times, which is a really odd feeling, and it makes it feel like very abrupt. So I don't really like how they put it together. How they kind of like did those kind of like reset things within the film. And this is another thing, like, you won't understand it if you haven't seen the film, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't like that. It kind of took me out of the film a little bit too much, but again, some other people may be fine with it. If the film was cut down some, I think it could have moved a little bit better and felt even crazier. Because think about, if you've already seen the film, like, think about what happened in it. And think about that moving at a quicker pace. Like, I really feel like could have been this, like, breakneck thing where people are just like, oh my god, like, I'm getting like, overwhelmed, it's crazy. And I kind of think that would have been awesome. That would have been even better. But it's still a good film as is, obviously. This is definitely one of those films where people yell at the screen multiple times, trying to tell characters what to do or not to do. There are plenty of those films out there. This is just another one to add to the pile. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is going to be about the metaphor in the film. So if you don't want to know the metaphor, it's not going to ruin any events of the film. If you don't want to know the metaphor, then you should stop right now. But here's my feeling on the metaphor. But this is just personally what I got out of the film. I'm not saying that this is what was intended by the filmmaker or anything. This is what I pulled out of it. This film is definitely a metaphor for how male-dominated society has kept women under thumb and abused them with little to no consequence for a long time, and even to this day. That is my feeling on what's going on here. And if you take that metaphor and you think back to the film, or you rewatch it with that context in mind, the events play even better. So for me personally, if I watch this film at face value, it's decent, it's solid, it's not a bad film. But then when you get the metaphor and you apply that to everything you've seen and you think about it, that's what takes it to another level for me. And that's why I really did end up enjoying this film. It's not the best film. I'm not going to go crazy on the rating. But out of 5 stars with half stars in play, it's a 4-star film for me. And I do quite like it. And I think it's definitely worth people watching. And I will be looking for more stuff from Cregger, especially if it's horror. Well, mainly just if it's horror. I won't look for anything else. Because, like, I primarily watch horror, if you can't tell from my YouTube channel. Anyway, thank you, everyone, for checking this out. Would love to hear your thoughts on this film. Put it in the comments. We can talk spoilers in the comments. That's fine. Let's do that. Excuse me. Also, hit the notification bell button in addition to subscribing to my channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please just consider doing that. It really does help me out, and I'm just trying to build a nerdy horror community here, and it's very quick and easy for you to do that. Like, it takes a second. It doesn't cost you any money or anything, and it means a lot to me. So if you like this video or any video I've ever done, please repay me by just subscribing, hitting the notification bell button, and then you know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing at least 4 a week, which I think is a good amount. But regardless, thanks everyone for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.